Welcome to Snapshot. My name's Th3Dan, and we host this weekly. We have an opportunity through GMA Ministries to take a quick look back at Pastors After Dark and the last session that happened. Look at that topic, kind of summarize for you the high points and some of our observations about what was discussed there, and then take a look forward at the next episode of Pastors After Dark and kind of preview the topic that's coming. If you're not familiar with Pastors After Dark, that is a larger session with a group of pastors who will take your questions. And they take questions from GMA and from Twitter and other places, and they answer the questions that are hot, the things that really people want an opinion on. And they don't always disagree. I mean, they don't always agree, which is actually kind of great that we have different perspectives. We have some diversity of opinion. And yet we can do that conversation, have that even disagreement or different opinion in a graceful manner. And so today, joining us as a guest is going to be PharrisStorm. Farris, buddy, get in here. Hey, there you are.
How's it
Tell us about
going, man?
yourself,
How's it
man.
going?
Yeah, introduce yourself.
My name's PharrisStorm. I am what we call in my church a spiritual formations pastor, which means if it's not student ministry or children's ministry, it's mine. And it all falls underneath me for any adult discipleship or making an impact, volunteering, missions, baptism, everything like that. I've been in full-time ministry for going on 13 years. I did student ministry for almost a decade, and I have switched to loving adults. I miss students, but I do like not having to talk about what like the teenage drama is. It's very fulfilling. To talk about real things.
What I hear you saying is you put in your decade of purgatory, and no, I'm just kidding.
No, it was a great time. It was one of those bittersweet things where it's like I love this, but I know God's moving me, and I was like, well, okay, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll follow you, Lord.
Well, welcome to Snapshot. Now, you were on the show this past week, and you guys were tackling this topic of are personality tests beneficial for Christians? Yeah. I got to sit through that and also watch it again recorded. Tell me your maybe high point takeaway from the episode, at least from your perspective.
I think probably my favorite part of the episode was probably when we had chat and each other guess what some of our personality types were.
Yeah.
And I think for the pastors, we know each other and we spent a lot of time together. So that was easy to kind of pinpoint where each other were. But it's fun kind of seeing where chat was. They were a little like hitting different parts of the dartboard with Deucin and Shadow, but there was no doubt about where I fell, and I was like, dang, I'm that obvious.
Well, yeah, and you and I were talking in chat. I don't know my Enneagram. I've not taken it before. I've taken Myers-Briggs for over 10 years. I mean, I've taken it probably every couple of years. And we have the same Myers-Briggs profile, which I assume means we probably have the same Enneagram profile too. We're close. ENTJs, which in the Myers-Briggs is the commander style, which is hilarious, right? Because one, that's a very small percentage of the global population, right? It's the second smallest. There's only one smaller percentile that you could be in all of the global population. So it makes us a bit of an outlier in terms of there's oftentimes not a lot of other ENTJs around. And then it's also really rare in ministry. I don't know if you're familiar with how rare that is in ministry, but ENTJs are few and far between. In my church, I'm the only ENTJ on staff out of 27 people.
Wow.
Yeah. I love you guys' conversation. I enjoyed the highlights of guessing personality types. I landed where I think everybody landed, which is absolutely personality tests can be beneficial for Christians. It's like anything else. It's like saying, can a television be beneficial for Christians? Well, it can be. Can also be a problem, right? I mean, anything can be used inappropriately. It's just a tool. And I think you guys kind of hammered on really the misconception of it has nothing to do with personality tests. It's just you guys talk through the abuses that have become common with certain personality tests, and then a little bit of the stigma of Enneagram. And I would say beyond the stigma of that one specific personality test, the real issue has nothing to do with the personality test. We're just looking at the common abuse of it when it becomes an identifier, when it becomes an excuse, particularly for behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I find personality tests to be very like I knowing that I'm an ENTJ explained a lot of stuff for me about my weaknesses, right? It really highlighted weaknesses, and I
Yeah.
thought, man, this is really good. We did another one in our staff last year that was a little bit easier because there were only 5 types, and they were about communication styles.
Mm.
And my communication style is a director. Now, when you read the director communication style, what you're going to see is a lot of the ENTJ stuff in there, but just on communicating back and forth, ideas and
Yeah.
conversations, things like that. Uh, so I saw all the similarities in a much briefer description. Probably the most eye-opening thing was other people on staff, 26 other people reading that, because I was one of only 2 directors in the whole staff, and the other director was a part-time person that worked 1 day in the office, right? He was just not even around.
Yeah.
So when the staff, 26 other people, read the director description, you should have seen light bulbs go on. Like, I mean, across the board, people were going, "Oh my, this makes so much more sense. We thought he just didn't like us, you know?" And it highlighted weaknesses I have. I want to get right to the facts as quickly as possible so we can make efficient decisions. That probably sounds
100%.
familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. Just cut to the meat.
Right. And for the relator communication style, if there's no buildup, if there's no check-in relationally, then something's wrong, right?
Mm.
That actually is a warning sign for them that there's a problem that's not being addressed. And so every time I would jump to the facts in their minds, they're thinking, "Uh-oh, there's some sort of problem because he didn't check in on
Mm-hmm.
me. We didn't talk about anything. There's no warm up here." I mean, it was really, really, really good. In fact, I would say that's likely substantially more effective in a team environment like for ministry than an Enneagram or a Myers-Briggs or anything else. And it's simpler. There's only 5.
Yeah.
And we come back and check in on that. So we were doing things, we were going so far as to, before a scheduled meeting with people, printing it at the top of the agenda, the communication styles of the individuals who would be in there, so that we could take that into account as we got into the meeting and think through, am I communicating this well for the people that are in the room? As an example, one of the types is an analyzer. An analyzer is a longer processor. They like time, not in real time, to process the information that and facts that have been delivered. They're very analytical, but they need a day. And so my co-executive pastor was 3 executive pastors on staff. One of them is an analyzer, and I pegged him so fast, just like you're pegging staff member. Like, I pegged him. I was like, "Oh, I know who this guy is,"
I know
and
exactly. Yeah.
and so I read it and I thought, yeah, I already intuitively knew this, but this just helps a little bit. If I want the best productivity from him, I give him some facts the day before, and I wait 24 hours minimum. And then I come back and I go, "What did you think about that?" And I let him tell me how he's processed those facts. Oh,
So,
man.
my wife, and I share a similar we share the same Enneagram number, but different Myers-Briggs numbers. And my wife is a processor.
Mm,
So when we first got married and we would fight or there's big decisions, like I think so fast
yep.
and so methodical, and I'm judging and prioritizing different results and different options like in real time. And I work really well under pressure in those moments that I'm like spewing options and ideas and things like that. And then
And
I'm
her
like, what do
mind
you
is
think? Yeah, and I'm like, "What do you think?" So, in big discussions, it was frustrating because I was like, what do you think about this?" And she's like, "Well, I think this." And normally, that would be a response that she hadn't thought, and she would come back later. It got worse when we would fight because because I'm ready. Here's
mm,
everything I think.
mm.
And she has to take time to process what I said with her emotions, come up with what she thinks, and then how to respond. So when we were young and married, the fights would take 3 days that could have taken 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Because she would have to think and process, come back to me.
I know.
I would respond quickly. Then she would have to think and process, and then come back to me.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is killing me.
Yep. I just want it to be done with.
Oh my God.
One bone to pick. You guys called the 5 love languages a personality test. I wholeheartedly disagree. I think the 5 love languages is a communication assessment. It has nothing to do with personality, for a couple reasons. One, the 5 love languages changes crazy amount. Like your love language, your primary, secondary love languages change massively in different seasons. Within 5-10 years in relationships, like flip. And personalities don't typically move that far because those are a little bit more hardwired type things. We can work on them and stuff, but there's some innate things in our personality. Your personality, my personality is ENTJs. We're just, we can have the Lord transform us in some areas, but love languages are more of a communication assessment than a personality assessment.
They are, but I think it was more of the approach of saying what we're doing is we're trying to create answers and explanations which aren't explicitly put down in the Bible to justify our actions, emotions, and responses, which is really interesting. And I think in that lane, I think that works similar to a personality test. But the one that we also mentioned that we didn't even get to hit is spiritual gifts test. If I'm 100%, that's a personality test. We just wrap it with some fancy biblical language and go, you're gifted in exhortation or serving or care or whatever. But but it's a personality test. That is what it is. And we ask erroneous questions, slap a biblical tag to it, and go, this is what it is. Oh no. Did I lose you, Dan? Did I lose him? Oh no, we may have lost the Dan the man. On. We're gonna text him.
I think we're on the 5 love languages. He'll have to find a good cut there.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I'll tell you. I think so. The 5 love languages is really interesting to me because you are right. It is a communication thing, and they do change. They change all the time. They've changed for my wife and I.
Yes.
A dozen times.
Yes.
In a dozen years of marriage. But what you're doing even with 5 love languages is you're asking arbitrary questions to define something for you and then apply biblical principles to them to help quantify and help you understand the world through a more biblical perspective. And I think in that way, it is a little bit more like a personality test. But the other thing that we mentioned, which we didn't talk on a lot, but is way more like a personality test that churches do all over the world, is a spiritual gifts test. That is literally a personality test. That's what it is.
It really is.
It is. It's a personality test.
I'm gonna try something real quick. I just realized.
Swap our heads.
Yeah, let me see if that. No, it doesn't work. There's got to be a way to do that. He's gonna be like, how do I fix this?
Yeah, he just don't.
You come back in on the wrong side. Like, I don't know. It's maybe because I came in later.
You want me to leave and come back?
No, I wonder if I can. I was thinking maybe I could drag one of us up or down, but I can't. Things I don't know how to do. Settings. No, none of those work.
I think it'll be okay. It'll be funny.
We'll just,
yeah, we'll go technical difficulties
because we have the same personality profile. We can just swap, and it's like the same thing.
That's right. It doesn't matter. Yeah, y'all just deal with it. It's fine. Doesn't affect the content.
I think that this verse might have been used in pads. I'm trying to remember. I think it was like the second one or third one quoted. But I put 2 verses 23 and 24 in when I was thinking about this, right? All things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. And then I think it's really important to add 24 whenever you use this, because obviously I think this gets pointed to a lot about different things. And that's this. And I don't think you can unlink these. Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor. And that's an ESV. And so that's 1 Corinthians 10. I think that's important because look, the Mosaic law went away. We have the law of Christ now, right? We could really get into the law of Christ and what that means, and morality and subjectivity and matters of the heart and all sorts of fun stuff that we could get down a rabbit trail with. But what we come back to when we say all things are permissible is having to go to the next verse and consider let no one seek his own good. So if my personality test is a way for me to excuse behavior that's harming somebody else or has an impact on somebody else, I got a big problem there, right? Yeah, I can't use 23 without 20 in absence of 24.
No,
If
100%.
yeah. So 24 is the anchor. 24 is the goal. And I just wrote up like a word of encouragement around kind of what you guys had summarized at the end of pads that I wanted to let people see. And it doesn't just apply to personality tests, applies to lots of things, but it's just this. Just about anything can be used for God's glory when you're actually trying to glorify God. Because that's the tie. Is this good or not? Well, it's probably just a tool. Like, is a shovel good or not? Like, what are you doing with the shovel? If you're hitting someone over the head with it, no. If you're, helping someone build their house, yes. I mean, it's about how the intention of how you're using it. And you can still mess up and use it the wrong way, but the intention's a big deal. Is it for you or is it for somebody else?
I think it deals a lot with that's the redemptive part. Okay, so like both of us are ENTJs, right? So it's called the commander. Right. And a commander, like if whoever's watching doesn't know, they're extroverted, they're intuitive, they're very thought like process, and they make judgments. So like their gut, right? Their guts. Their terrible sides is they run over people. They're stubborn. We're intolerant. We're impatient. We're arrogant. But the arrogance comes out of a sense of confidence of how right we are. And even if we're wrong, we're gonna fight that we're right because we believe it. And but it's not a believing thing because we're trying to be jerks. Like it's in our soul. So when we're wrong, many times we're like woefully and fully wrong, and cold and ruthless. So, right, like you see these things, and before Christ, they are totally selfish. Yet in Christ, he redeems even those weaknesses, right? So, like for me, stubborn and dominant, the way that comes out in ministry is I want to pursue perfection in what I accomplish because in my brain, I'm going to push over and run over things, or where it comes from, when rules and regulations that don't affect any legality are in my way or slowing me down. That is terribly angering because it's a process that isn't in mind of people. It's a process in mind of like bureaucracy or bookkeeping. That's how I perceive it.
Well, we're dominated by the need for efficiency.
Yeah. Or like for us, one of the weaknesses says that we are poor handlers of emotion. It's not that we don't have emotions, it's that we don't have time to process them, because to process them would slow us down from achieving the greater goal, which makes us come off another weakness, cold and ruthless. Right. So so we're like, for us, our strive for the glory of God is to do the best we can, the most we can, and we run after it with all we have. Where our sin comes in and where we need redemption and where we need to ask for forgiveness and where we need to grow as individuals is going, hey, Ferris, you did something great. Can you turn around? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know the entire city is on fire behind me. Right. Like that's us.
5 years ago, I'm sitting with a senior pastor. We're doing accountability and eval type stuff. And I'm just sitting there, after some prayer and everything. And I look at him and I say, I need you to tell me when I run people over, because I don't even know. I literally don't know.
The last 3 direct reports I've had, I've told them when I've been interviewing them and they finally hired me, I was like, when you are in development with me, I need you to not coddle my emotions, but be direct, because I value harsh truth, because you honor me enough to tell me the hard things. And that's how I receive, hear, and grow. If you're like, hey, let me tender, be kind to you, I feel like you're being disingenuous and dishonest and not getting to the point.
Well, what I begin to realize is that I had such a weakness around emotion and a need for productivity that it wouldn't intellectually even dawn on me that I was running somebody over. And so I would just get it done in the most efficient, productive way possible, and everyone was left with tire tracks on them, like feeling like they just got run over. And it got to the point, it was so bad, even after that, even just a year and a half ago, that I felt like I was still not able to communicate well with people how much I cared for them, how much I loved them in the process, because I was busy putting out fires and getting things done, and there was all these crises with COVID and everything else. And it just got so bad with what I felt was like this misperception of me and the work that I had done with people, that I quit. I quit. I called the senior pastor and I was just like, "Hey man, I resign. I'll send you a letter," you know? And he was just like, "No, no." He's like, "Here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna take some time off, minimum a month, and I'm gonna check in on you. And
hold on, son.
We'll see where you're at." No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dan. This is just like we said about our kids coming in. Papa's filming something right now. When he's done, I'll come help you. Okay?
No, I won 2 times this tonight.
I'm very proud of you. Good job. Good job. Hey, give me 5. All right, go on. Will you shut the door, please? Thank you, son. Hey, really, I'm proud of you. You're getting a lot better. He's been playing Fortnite. Good job, Bubba. Oh, man. Even in like that. So, like, even in like that interruption, right? Previously, it would have been you interrupted my goal, right?
Right.
But where here's so, you know, we talked about in that and you mentioned it, that it can be a tool to help you grow as long as it doesn't become our sole identifier of who we are, and then also our excuse for our failures, right, and our sins. But like that interruption 5 years ago would have made me frustrated, but through being able to know what I am as a personality and then take that back to the gospel of who God calls us to be as leaders, as fathers, as believers primary, allows me to be able to go, my son wants to celebrate with me, and he needs that emotional response.
Let me do you one further.
Yeah.
You're this. I think this is the life verse for an ENTJ. Okay. This, like, I was reading this and I stopped and I read it again and I stopped and I went, I have a problem. And when I read this verse, it's Philippians 4:5.
Philippians 4:5.
It says,
can you take that off screen?
It says, let your reasonableness be known to everyone. Now, I looked that up in like all the translations, and I looked it up in the Greek. And it means,
you're like, oh, I got to deal with this.
I got to deal with this, okay? Because it means that I should have, every one of us, but the problem is that I don't have this. I should have this reputation for everybody that knows me or knows anything about me, that I'm overwhelmingly reasonable. Now, I would begin to go, what is I think I'm reasonable. Of course I'm reasonable. I use reason for everything. I love facts and logic, and I'm analytical. Then I looked up reasonable. It means gentle. It means gentle. You should be known for your gentle. I am the opposite. I'm known for running through the china shop like a bull and breaking everything along the path and getting to the end and going, I got it done.
Yep. It's so wild, isn't it?
Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. Do you, Farris, have a reputation for gentleness? And if you don't, because I can very clearly say I do not, I have made it my goal to learn what it's going to take through prayer and through work and through apologies to be known for my gentleness.
It wasn't until I started to learn to apologize that I became gentle.
Yeah.
And there's a different type of apology, especially for ENTJs. If we fail, we want to accept the failure as more, for like historically for me, it was, I want to own this failure so I can hurry up and move past the failure.
Right.
Admit my wrongdoing, which would on the outside make people think that I was disingenuous, which I'm not. I'm serious. But again, as unhealthy personality without Christ being in our hearts. It's, I don't want to dwell on this failure because I have more things to do. Right. And when I started to learn to apologize in genuineness and take the time to experience their emotions of my wrongdoing to them when I apologize to them, is when I started to learn gentleness. And it was to reach into a part of emotions I hadn't experienced yet, which is empathy, but to like sit in it,
Right.
and to sit in it with them, not apart from them. Like, I'm going to think about this. How did that make them feel? But when I apologize, the way I like to apologize now is to apologize how I perceived my wrongdoing of them, and then ask them for clarity if I hit it right, and then accept that.
And what changes, I think, for people that are in this ENTJ category or in an analytical category,
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not just ENTJs, is I have to be willing, and this has to be genuine, to say, you know what? Yes, I told you the truth. We use that example a while off show, I think. I told you the truth, but I chose the wrong method to do that. And therefore, I see the impact it had to you, because your feelings do matter. And I'm the guy that's like, feelings don't matter. Facts matter, right? But feelings do matter. They're not necessarily right, but they do matter. And when I went from wanting to capture people's brains, which is giving them the facts and the analytical reasons that my plan is the right plan and let's go do it, to capturing people's hearts, then I had to admit that feelings do matter. And I couldn't get to the heart without some feeling.
You look at Jesus's interaction specifically with sinners, not the Pharisees who should know better, but those who don't know better. So like, one of my favorite stories is the woman at the well, right? Like he has all the facts, but he doesn't present the facts. He doesn't. What's really interesting is he doesn't present any condemnation of her before he offers her hope of the living water. And then she goes, "What is this living water? Where do I find it?" And he goes, "Well, if you knew who was talking to you, you would have asked me for a drink of water." And then he goes into, go call your husband. So that man's not your husband.
I just preached this like less than 6 months ago. And when you open it up and read it, what you realize is Jesus is actually offering her this about 5 times in a row. And her responses, you have to put your mindset here. I think it helps so much in reading it. Every one of her responses is a deflection, is a defensive deflection. And if you watch what she does, she actually tries to change subjects. You have to read her responses with an almost sarcastic tone, because you're reading a woman who has been just abused, but abused by men, man. Like, no one in that culture went through that many husbands if they didn't have massive, and comes through it not having massive trust issues in men. So when a Jewish man just shows up and starts engaging her, like I'll tell you what she's thinking when that happens. You're talking about a very damaged woman who's been taken advantage of. And so her answers are sarcastic. They are defensive. They are deflective. And Jesus is trying to offer, and he's trying to offer, and he's very gentle with it. And he does not go to the level where he talks about her husbands until about the 5th response. And then she deflects again.
Yeah.
She does not immediately go, "Oh, you're a prophet." She goes, "Oh, I perceive you're a prophet." And she asks him a political question to try to drag him into a political controversy.
Oh, yeah.
And he answers and deflects that and brings that back to an invitation. So he invites her like 6 times in a row. Anyhow, I could go on. So point being,
it's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah. So let your reasonableness be known to everyone. Farris, the goal for people that are assertive and goal-oriented and ENTJs and analytical and fact-oriented is to build a gospel-centered reputation around being gentle. And that only happens as God tenderizes our hearts enough to empathize with people and care about their feelings. But it's the only way I believe that we're going to survive in ministry and do well.
100%. We are our Myers-Briggs is nicknamed the Commander, but the commander who cares leads long, right? And that's the truth, right? It's because people know that you are valuable to them, and when a person knows that you are valuable to them, they will be willing to be able to forgive you more because you are still going to fail a lot, even with that personality. But they are going to be willing to understand you, provide you grace, and also give you more opportunity to experience and live in that gentleness, to learn that gentleness.
Yes. So next week, quick preview. We're not going to spend as much time as I wanted to on it because we spent so much time on this, but it was good. Next week for Pads coming up, how should Christians speak? Now listen,
I'm excited for that.
Oh.
Christian Twitter,
like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't even get into it. Let me
Facebook posts.
Let me just say this
that are previewed with "I'm a Christian," but
let me just say this. Go back to Philippians 4:5 before you ever open your app on your phone. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. If you cannot read your Twitter post and go, will this build a reputation of gentleness? Delete, put it away, or start again. I'll leave that there for you guys are going to discuss. It'll be a bigger thing, be more comprehensive. But
boom.
Yeah.
We don't even need pad. Boom. No.
Yeah,
I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that conversation because over the last 2 years specifically, but primarily since the innovation of being able to for everyone post an idea with all vitriol but have no repercussions in real life has caused a sense of arrogance to no longer care about your fellow man.
Right. Well, to be able to ignore the real life repercussions because they're there. You just don't. You just get to not see them because you close your app. And I love it. I can't wait for it. Thank you for joining us.
It's gonna be good.
Thanks for spending the time, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, PharrisStorm. If you don't follow him, you can find him on Twitch, Twitter, everywhere else.
Twitter, Instagram. Come find me, PharrisStorm.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Guys, appreciate you spending some time with us here at Snapshot as we looked back at Pads for last week, and we look forward to this topic that's coming this week. It's gonna be great. Just know GMA Ministries is a community. We have a Discord and a lot of other avenues to bring Christian streamers, gamers, content creators together, just to communicate the message that you are valued and loved. We love you. God loves you. And we can't wait to connect with you in some way. We can't wait to see you on Sunday night at our Pastors After Dark show. You can tune in live on Twitch and check that out. As always, Lord bless you and keep you. I'm the Dan, and I'll see you next week.